my name is Piyush Rawat. I took my GMAT in January last year. I had a score of 740, and then I went on to apply to Mannheim Business School and IMD Switzerland, and I got offers from both. And after that score, I applied to a German school, Mannheim Business School, and then eventually ended up applying to IMD. I had offers from both schools, and uh, ended up taking IMD's offer because of multiple reasons that I can talk about later, perhaps. I did mechanical engineering at one of the NITs in India. Then I started my career at Honda Motors. This was back in 2011. Then I left industry and started a tech startup in Bangalore in 2012. Then for next 4.5 years till 2016, mid of 2016. We grew. We worked hard. We got lucky. We grew to 35 people, and luckily we had some acquisition offers coming in. And I'd already moved to Germany because our clientele was very heavy in Germany, 5 or 6 clients. Yeah, the challenges were typical. It was about finding time and balancing it with work, because you still have to work for 7-8 hours and then come home, and so it comes down to managing your time, right? Hours on an hourly basis, and be dedicated to it over a tenure of time, at least 3 months, I would recommend. So in my case, it took, I think, 4 months. My first attempt was in November in 2016, and it was not a great score, I would say. Then I actually had a call with Arun after that attempt, and then I sort of realigned my focus to, I think. Sorry, just stepping back. I think there's a lot of noise out there for GMAT preparation. There's a lot of content, a lot of advice, and all of that is not useful. So it's very important to declutter and boil it down to what's important. So I think what worked for me was focus on official content. I stopped touching anything which was not official and just dissect the official questions to a different level, to level 5, and spend 3-4 times more time than I would spend solving them in just dissecting the questions and trying to find what are they testing, how am I reacting to it during the pressure, during the time I'm solving those questions, and then get that introspection going, and then you start seeing patterns. The curriculum of GMAT is not huge, to be honest. Being Indians, we are used to cover a lot more than what GMAT tells you to learn, just in terms of learning. Okay, so that was the content part. The second part, which I think is not emphasized enough, especially in an Indian cultural context, is a focus on resting. Resting as a plan, right? I mean, you need to have a half day off every week, or if not a day off, and then also take 4 to 5 days off before the test. Before the test date. That I think worked really well for me. I think I'd never scored more than 720 in my practice tests, and I started realizing that there was a pattern on my in my performance when I was resting for a day or two before the test or practice test I took. So I decided to take a week off before GMAT, and I did things that I like, right? I mean, cooking, went on a hike with my girlfriend, went out with friends. I mean, especially whatever makes you happy, right? In general, I think that state of mind is very important. It puts you in the shoes where you come out with your best hat on the day, and eating well, right? And eating you can Google for 5 minutes. You can find that okay, you need to have this kind of diet full of omega-3, etc., which with just biology, right? Which helps you recall the memory, recall the patterns your brain has. So these subtle things, I think, because we are so tuned to go hard in competition, we go the brute force way and forget that it's qualitative, it's not quantitative. You can practice questions to an extent, but then it's all about handling pressure, your brain responding to your to will to perform, all those things. So Yeah, so content, being focused with content, not doing a lot of, not buying into a lot of noise and sticking to what is official. Two, focus on health, exercising, sleeping, and taking rest before the. I think it's the big one. Taking rest before the big day, at least 3 to 4 days. All in all, which I was not doing in the first half of my preparation, and the first result showed that. And it kind of worked out. So as I said, my test day score was 740 something, which I never scored in my practice test. So yeah, that's been yeah. And by personal priorities, as I said, my partner is European. I wanted to stay in Europe, and honestly, I was looking to not spend too much and not take a loan to get my MBA done. So I went for Mana Business School, which is a decent enough school to get you a decent job in Germany. It's not very international, honestly. So I went there for open day. I met people, mostly Indians of my profile, not exactly my profile, but similar personas who went there, and I knew I knew their trajectory. So I had evidences that the school gives you enough platform to do whatever you want to do. Uh, and I applied there. I got an admit, and then IMD came into picture. So I heard about IMD small class. It's a special school in many ways, right? If you take all the premium tier one schools, it's the only school which has a class less than 100, which is smaller than 100 people. They talk a lot about personal attention, and all of that I'm experiencing right now. I mean, the amount of one-on-one time you get, face time, I think it's incredible. We have a behavior coach, we have a career coach, we have a psychoanalyst, and you meet these people almost, okay, the psychoanalyst on weekly basis, the behavior coach on monthly basis, and the career coach on sort of 2 months, 3 months basis. I don't think this would happen in a 900, 500, or even 300 people class. That is definitely one. The other part is the fraternity of IMD class. I mean, because it's a close knit tight group. Uh, Everyone knows everyone, and we see the same faces 5 times every day, which is a little too much sometimes. But I think that was my drive to choose IMD over other schools, and I also wanted to take a shot at the Swiss employment market, which has its benefits. Experience altogether, I think it's the only school which evaluates the candidate and takes a full day to evaluate in the way they do, and takes a full day to look at you in action. I mean, you make presentations here, you have to deal with short cases, so you have to think on the feet. And it also tells a lot about the school that that they are ready to invest so much in the candidates that they take in, and the selectivity is so high. So once you come and experience their assessment day, I fell in love with the school, honestly. The way their qualitative approach in assessment was not fast track approach. I mean, just come on a Skype call and then we'll say yes or no, right? So that comprehensive attitude towards evaluation also raised my respect for them. And it's a beautiful place, honestly. Come here, Lausanne, I think it's one of the most beautiful places on earth to be in. And yeah, all in all, it looked like a good bet. Small class, qualitative, everything is. So I spoke to a lot of people who came to IMD and who made it to IMD. Not a lot, but I think 4 or 5. Like, I properly interviewed them the way you are interviewing me. So I asked about their experiences, the material they used to preparation. So it's all the right preparation more than anything else, and then being in the right kind of mindset and shows on the performance day, right? So these two parts. So I spoke to enough people. I had enough data uh, about what I need to do, and then I took that time. I took 3 weeks to prepare. I think I was very well prepared, and I outperformed. I think I really crossed the threshold of just getting in by a big margin, and that's why I got a full scholarship status. It has 3 parts. One is case prep. So you need to read a case and come up with some kind of recommendation in a presentation form that you need to do to a small group. So you need to do some cases to get a hang of what cases are. Second, I think there is this role play. I think, by the way, these things have changed. They are not exactly the same. They have changed a lot this year. So for me, the second was role play, where when you go into a room and then you are asked to play a role. It could be a CEO of a small company or a HR head of a big company, and then you have a person who is anonymous person acting like someone in the case, and then you basically respond. Sorry, you respond to the situation given, and then someone is evaluating your responses. And the third is face-to-face interviews. They're mostly about the standard questions, like your motivation about choosing the school, your motivation about doing your MBA, and basically, narrating your own life story, personal story, and how it led to the position you are in. Right? Yeah, I guess these three parts. There's a group dynamics part as well, where you need to work in. So it's assessment day is always 5 or 6 people, by the way. So you are with 5 or 6 people on that day. You need to work in group and come out with some outputs. It could be a presentation, it could be a recommendation. That I'm not sure if one can prepare well for, but definitely, do the usual, go through the usual suspects on the website, on the internet, and behave in the right way. I would say, yeah, that you're supposed to do. Yeah. Completely aware of them, but I was contacted by a lot of students who are applying this year on LinkedIn, etc. And from what I heard, they have made it this assessment day an option. So earlier you had to come to Switzerland and go through this assessment day. I think now it's an option. Now you can choose not to, and to a fast track way, which I am not a big advocate of, because I think that was setting them apart. But I can understand that it was also stopping them from getting number of applications, because it's not just easy for anyone to fly and leave everything and fly in for 3 days. And it's also the expense part. They don't reimburse that part. Essays are shorter. I've heard that. Different questions. I cannot comment on how the questions have changed, but essays are definitely shorter. Mm, recommendation used to be 3, which I think is also non-typical. Usually you have 2 recommendation letter requirement. IMD had 3. Not sure. I think they have made it 2, but I'm unsure on this. What else? As I said, it's an incredible place to be in. The amount of personal attention you get, I think it can transform you as a person, because it's not just your career, right? I mean, they talk about everything, from your marriage issues to what is stopping you to perform confidently in certain situations. So really go five layer deeper, and work with how your past experiences and your personality type sort of has evolved in last 10 years, 15 years, and which part of that could we change during this year, which part of that you need to be aware of and not worry about changing. So just going higher on that degree of self-awareness, and being okay with that, and being aware of what I could change and what I could not. It gives you a certain level of comfort, I guess. And that sticks. Those kind of interactions are not just talking about finding a new job for you, right? It's very personal. So that's, I think, is very unique, and that has been happening since 2 months at least, if not three and a half. And yeah, the major part of the program is yet to come. So I don't know how my experience will change, but I'm looking forward to it. But IMD, you have a company which works with IMD, and you have more or less this 90-100 flats that get passed from batch to batch. You don't have to do a lot. You just work with that company and pay them the fee, and they get you. So I stay I have rented a flat, and there are some people who are living in sort of a building where you have 20 IMD folks, but in different flats. But it's not a hostel. No? It's still apartment building, more or less. Yeah, it's definitely it's not a concern at all. They have taken care. Already living in Germany, and my partner being German. I mean, honestly, the culture cultural difference between Switzerland and Germany is not that big. In fact, there's nothing called native Swiss. If you ask the Swiss, is half Germany, half French. So the part I'm in is half French. It's close to France. I have not experienced any shock for the reasons I just told you, but I can guess people would have. Yeah, definitely there are differences. One is a language barrier, a big one. If we just talk about the practicality of of doing this MBA, you need to have a job right after it. So because of language issues, your options are, I don't know, 1/5, even worse. Uh, and so the only options you are left with is UK. If you want to, because I assume people who do MBA in Europe, they want to stay in Europe, right? So options are UK. A lot of tech jobs, because tech jobs usually don't require language skills, and the Nordics language is usually not an issue. So that's a challenge that you need to be aware of, and I think it's something that people are not very cognizant of. And it just adds to the risk of putting so much of money into an MBA. Second, which also applies to US and now also to Canada, more or less, in Australia, is permits, right? Only few number of companies actually do visa sponsorship. So most of the companies would say that they do, based on case to case basis, when you have some skills they need, etc., etc. But the truth is still really difficult. So apart from companies like Amazon, Danaher, and few more who do sponsor irrespective of wherever you are from, like they are very few. Amazon is one of them. Most of the companies will say they will look at you and then evaluate, and some, like Microsoft, don't do it at all. So that's so these two things, I guess, one need to be very cognizant of. And the third thing, which is a challenge for about Switzerland, that you cannot stay in Switzerland after the MBA is done. You need to leave the country almost right away. That's different for Germany and France and Netherlands, where you can stay for 6 months, 12 months. And Switzerland, you need to leave Switzerland. So that's also adds to sort of the anxiety that it can add if you don't have solid leads starting from September, October. And that placement drive we have, it starts in September. So we have 20 companies visiting the campus, 25 companies, 10 companies doing video calls with us. So you have you have access to those companies directly, and the others you need to start cultivating as soon as in April, June, so that so because here it takes a lot of time. It's not like India. The conversion of a lead, a conversation into a job takes 3 to 6 months. They obviously, I mean, they interview multiple times, 5, 6 times, but they also sometimes just want to know you as a person. References are very important. Meeting them casually over coffee is very important. So I'm not sure about how this works in US. I mean, US is a different culture, different economy, but in Europe things take time. So you need to start early, and you need to be aware of language issue. It's a big one, I think. And I speak like B1, B2 level of German, so I'm not fluent. That can help me. Basically prove the point. If I'm saying that I will be fluent in 6 months, they would perhaps believe it, because I can say that I've done till B1. I can put another 6 months. For someone who has no fluency at all, will have a hard time justifying that they will catch up with the language.